apply for the full design of the entire route, all 6 segments, but we'll focus on segments 4 here that you see above you, and then segment 5, which is in green. And so these areas are about 3.5 miles. There are some typical cross sections for design that they have considered based on that land use. And then this is segment 5, which connects to the South Texas Ecotourism Center.
efficiency, and safety. Eligible activities include connected vehicles, system integration, commerce, delivery, and logistics, and smart technology traffic signals. So I know this is a lot of information, so please bear with me, and I'm going to be dividing up programs into different categories and everything. I always like to joke around that although I was my math teacher's favorite student, I wasn't always her best. So I do have resources for all this stuff, and I'm more than happy to share that with everyone. So that is the update on the notice of funding opportunities and when you can expect it by month. I did check it this morning again, and they did announce another program, but it is for the Federal State Partnership for Intercity Passenger Rail Grant Program. That does not list an NGO and eligible recipient, but local governments or states can partner with Amtrak for that one. That one is expected to be announced in October. So I thought on the way over here, so I still just wanted to give it a shout out in case someone checks the website. Next up will be Safe Streets for All. The Safe Streets for All funding supports regional, local, and tribal initiatives through grants to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. Some of the eligible activities include develop or update a comprehensive safety action plan, conducting planning, designing, and development activities in support of an action plan, and carrying out projects and strategies identified in an action plan. So one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves before submitting an application for this program, which application deadline is September, this coming up September, is if you have already a comprehensive safety action plan. The MPO does not have one, so we want to submit an application for an action plan. That being said, we will then seek implementation plan grant in a future funding round so we can implement things that we identified in the action plan. So in the middle on the left, you'll see a graphic there that I put in that shows you questions you should ask yourself if you're thinking about submitting an application or wanting to be a part of our application. So the first thing you have to ask is, do you have an action plan? No, you have to apply for an action plan. Even if you do have a comprehensive safety action plan, you have to meet the requirements from FHWA. And if you meet some but not all of them or most, then you have to apply for an action plan grant to supplement the one that you currently have. But if you do, you can go ahead and apply for an implementation plan. So this approach is a two-pronged approach. We apply for the action plan first. We form a committee and we decide, and we have resources that show proven county safety measures that we can go after in our action plan that we can go ahead and seek funding for in the future round to actually implement and get dollars to implement those activities. And so I've just provided down there in the bottom just some action plan grant activities, as well as some of those proven safety countermeasures that you can implement in an implementation plan grant, such as lighting for streets, improves crosswalk visibility enhancements, speed safety cameras, and pavement friction management. There are a lot more, and they all have pages and links and a lot of resources. So if you want more information, please feel free to reach out. The next thing I would like to do is just announce that we are going to be politely requesting that we find a resolution just to commit to a Vision Zero goal by 2050. Back in February, the RGVMPO did sign a resolution to support the state's goals to zero roadway fatalities by 2050. But in order to apply for the grant, we do need to commit to our own goal. So we decided to commit to the same goal as the state. So that resolution is there on page 89 if you want to take a look at it. So at this time, if anyone has some questions about any of the grant programs or Safe Streets for All, we will be submitting an application this September, but we would need that resolution signed today. So yeah, I'm open for any questions at this time.
Any questions?
Long information.
Yeah, it's a lot.
There's no match for the action plan grants?
Like local match? Yeah. It's 80-20.
80-20?
Yeah.
So that's also it for the action plan?
Yes. So we would need a match. They haven't said otherwise, like for example, like the Bridge Investment Program, where they specifically make paragraphs talking about the split for local and federal shares.
Any other questions?
Can Texas do our 20% match?
That I don't know if we partner with them for an application, then I don't see why not. But then that's not a question that I could possibly answer. Hopefully, yes, fingers crossed.
For the maximum, I think it's 5 million, right?
They didn't show the maximum.
200,000.
Yeah, that was the average of what people were submitting applications for, thinking about was about 200,000 for the ECS.
Thank you, sir.
This is an action item, so we entertain a motion. Motion by Texas, second by Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let me pause just for a second.
Sure.
I fail to recognize the new mayor of Mission, Ms. Nori Garza, who is here attending for her first meeting. So, I apologize for not doing that at the beginning of the meeting, but sure, we could embarrass you now. I'll go ahead and continue item number 4, discussion and possible action of section 5310 applications.
Okay, perfect, there you go. All right, so the next one we'll be talking about is section 5310, which is a Federal Transit Administration program. This is money that's coming from FTA, it's not coming from our UPWP or PL funds. This is money that's going from 20 and 21. And so section 5310, the program purpose is intended to improve mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities by providing funds for capital and operating expenses that expand transportation and mobility options. This year we received 2 applications, and funny enough, we got one traditional and one non-traditional application, so it made things pretty clear cut and simple for us. Traditional, when you think about traditional applications, you think of the purchase of buses, making them ADA compliant so that we can have transportation options for people who need them. And non-traditional used to be a program called 5317 that was absorbed by 5310. This program funds building accessible paths of bus stops, including curb cuts, sidewalks, accessible pedestrian signals, and features. So the Valley Metro application was, I'm just going to give a brief description of both applications that we received. The Valley Metro Regional Call Center and Fleet Replacement Project is designed to serve individuals with disabilities, the elderly, and the public to provide information on transportation needs and services throughout the Rio Grande region. The City of Weslaco submitted a non-traditional application. The Valley Metro, they requested the full amount. The grant opportunity we have this funding round is $1,100,524. Valley Metro requested the full amount. City of Weslaco non-traditional, their description is the Weslaco Pedestrian 2022 project. It's phase 2 of the previously awarded HCMPO funding from 2017. The project will continue to provide people with mobility issues more accessibility in public areas, and they requested $500,000. So in the middle below the logos of the 2 applicants, we put down the project types. So for Valley Metro, we have bus fleet replacement, purchase of equipment to make those buses ADA compliant, and also a regional call center. We received a score sheet that was provided to us by Valley Metro and Federal Transit Administration, and we also have the scores there. Valley Metro scored 79 out of 100. The City of Weslaco project, the sidewalk, ADA compliance, pedestrian connectivity, and they got an 81 out of 100. We have shared the score sheets with the 2 applicants. They have acknowledged their scores and they've signed it and they've sent it back to us. So we're all on the same page. We also received guidance from Valley Metro and Federal Transit Administration in regards to how we can choose to split the award. And so the guidance says that traditional should receive at least 55% of the program funds minimum. We can decide to award them more, or we can decide to go with the 55%, and the non-traditional should get the remaining 45%. So that being said, if we were to split that $1,100,524, Valley Metro would get $605,288, and the City of Weslaco would get $495,235. And so I'm here today, the Technical Advisory Committee put it to a vote and recommended that we go with the 55-45 split. I did want to be transparent, and a question did come up in the Technical Advisory Committee that what would happen to Valley Metro if they only got the $605,000 versus the full amount that they asked for. In their project description breakdown, they do show that with the purchase of the 5 buses, they're expecting it to be just over about $400,000, and it'll be about $200,000 for the ADA compliant equipment. So they should still be able to get 4 or 5 of those buses that they initially expected to with the award amount. What would be faltering would be the regional call center if they don't get the full amount. So that was brought up at our technical advisory committee, so I just in honor of being transparent, just letting you know that that was already brought up and addressed. So now this is an action item. Next steps will be working with FTA to see when we can start. The two projects can start. To our knowledge, Valley Metro does have a tip entry. We're working with them. And so we're working with FTA to see when they can actually go ahead. So once we hear guidance from Federal Transit and from TxDOT, then we will let them know, and we will also be meeting with the two applicants so we can make sure that the process goes smoothly. So at this time, I would like to ask for a vote on the transportation policy board on how you so wish to award the money, whether we go with the 55-45 split that was recommended by our technical advisory committee, or go with the different split that you guys decide.
I move to accept your recommendation.
Motion by Mayor and Wilson. Second. Second from Mr. Robinson. Any further discussion?
Good presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Good way of saying neutral. Good job.
And that's it.
All those in favor, please vote so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good job. Item number 5, discussion and possible action for staff to attend the Access Management Fundamental Principles Application and Computation Conference in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm here to ask for a
Should we ever entertain this?
That's how I told you. No Buckeyes, no Buckeyes.
The Michigan guy said no.
So I'm asking here for approval for out-of-state travel to Columbus, Ohio to attend an FHWA access management training. It's going to be a 3-day training, so we'll be out of office for 5 days. And basically the focus on this is to determine the impacts of signalized and unsignalized access connections to given corridors in terms of safety, capacity, and business marketing areas. It's also to calculate needed turning lanes for a given area and to select appropriate median access management techniques for given applications.
Move to approve as long as you use it. Get Mayor's
On the record, he is a Notre Dame graduate also, so he's probably completely like me. We're gonna have to abstain.
Motion by Commissioner Garza. Second by Mayor Rose. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries. Good luck, bro. Item 6, make sure you take a shower when you get back. Item 6, discussion and possible action for staff to attend annual AMPO conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
This is staff seeking approval to attend the National Conference of MPOs that will be held this year in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't know if there's any conference with football teams there. Okay. Vikings, really? Okay, anyway, on the record, sorry. It would be myself, Eva, Melanie, and Miguel to attend the conference. And the breakdown is in your packet of, it's approximately $2,100 per employee, depending, of course, on the turnaround time for approval from TxDOT for our airline tickets, since those seem to be fluctuating quite a bit. But it is I did note in there, to be fair, airline tickets right now are about $600, and I did put a note depending on the timeline to get the tickets. So we're hoping that it will stay close to that, depending on TxDOT approval, because they approve it after the policy. If you should.
It's in October, that's better than January.
Amen. I wouldn't.
Any questions for Andy? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mayor by Wilson, I'm sorry, who, you're on there? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign.
Thank you.
Item number 7, discussion and possible action on category 7 funding request for highway projects. Now, it says discussion and possible action, but it also has information about this check, which is,
It's certainly discussion.
so it's discussion only.
Yes, sir.
All right. Rudy.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all of our policy board members. I want to thank the entities that submitted these requests initially, and it's been an ongoing process. We have successful 3 meetings so far. We're lacking just one last meeting with one entity that we'll be having that meeting very soon. Like I mentioned, success, our ideal situation would be to rank these projects, prioritize them, and then compare them to the amounts of funding that may become available once this draft 2023 UTP is approved. Any other funding opportunities, of course, will come up on a case-by-case basis, and we'll make the both technical advisory committee and policy board members aware of any additional opportunities. However, included in this packet, along with the requests that are listed, are the meetings that we've had so far. We've been able to rank the top 3 projects with those entities that we've met, and we're going to do so with our final meeting as well. So what I'd like to show, if we could proceed to the final slide in this part of the packet, is the projected numbers for the 2023 UTP. And what it represents basically is the breakdown per fiscal year. There we go, thank you very much. And so we'll see what we're looking at for projected numbers for year 23 to 2032. 2032 is the new year that's moving in with this new UTP, so you notice it's highlighted there to distinguish the difference. We have the delta percentages also for each area within the RGVMPO planning boundary. So as to wrap up for this, what we're asking for is, of course, one more meeting, and then we'll bring the results of that final meeting and the meetings we've also already had with those that requested category 7. We'll bring that to the technical advisory committee with the results, how much money will be requested of those projects that are prioritized, how much funding will be available. We're also going to provide project scores as well, just to help along the process of planning for the near future. But this is just an informational item, like Vice Chairman just mentioned, and so we just have to present this to the policy board today for information purposes.
If there's a few plans, don't forget, it's always, we have a 10-year plan, UTP and TIP. We always start from the top down, always from the top down. It's for both entities, Cameron and both, and that's actually in our emergent document. Second of all, it is always a priority to, and I know this personally because I spend money in the city, right? It's always, you need to get your projects ready, shovel ready. You have to get them ready. We're not going to be allocating, I'm sure people agree, for projects that are not going to come to fruition until 5 years from now, 6 years from now. When things are bottlenecked in the first 4 years. You got to get that stuff out. Second of all, it's intended, category 7, like the rest of the state does, construction, get projects out so we can start moving the list up and get more money. Don't forget as you start planning. All of these taken into consideration, and we bring it back to the public board meeting, but that is the rules of engagement that have been set once we merge.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any other comments, concerns, or questions before we move on?
Well, I think I agree with the mayor from the standpoint that excuse me, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
I agree with the mayor in the sense that we want to try to get, make sure that our projects get to construction. There's a lot of people that have projects that they've identified, that they've worked up, they've invested a lot of money in getting those projects ready. We also want to make sure, and I think I shared this with you, that we want to give everybody an opportunity to develop those projects. Now, I know that this has a breakdown year by year by year, so some of these monies won't come for quite some time. So we certainly advise that everybody take note of their responsibility in making sure that they develop those projects and get them to a shovel-ready status so that we want to exhaust as much of the TxDOT money as possible and not have it roll over. So it is important that we move these projects to construction, get the right-of-way act done, and we move these projects to letting and to actual construction, because that's an important part of our grade as a region, is to make sure that those projects don't just sit there. But we also, just like we share the money between Hidalgo County and Harlingen, San Diego, and Brownsville, we're not going to go, Hidalgo County's not going to go into Brownsville because we're ready. I mean, we have to respect that Brownsville has their set of jobs and they have projects that they want to get done. I think we also have to be, respectful within our own entities and domains. We have an obligation as the leaders of Hidalgo County to make sure that we get all of our projects done, just like Cameron County, Harlingen, San Diego, and also Brownsville. So just my 2 cents, Andrew. But I hope that everybody responds. But I think it would be prudent for you guys to give us kind of a breakdown of a little bit better breakdown about how all of this is really going to come down to each of the entities, or what projects are in the TIP and need that extra money. We need that help identifying where those funds should go, and hopefully it'll be shared equally, throughout all of the projects that have an opportunity to get to construction. Yep, within the 10, for sure, because this is a 10-year plan. But I think we need a little bit of information as far as how much money is missing from the projects that are inside the TIP and inside the UTP, so that we can try to identify where these funds would actually be allocated. If we're going to assign them a priority, but they're not gonna have enough money because they're not gonna get assigned money, then they're kind of sitting there in limbo. They're afraid to make a priority judgment call if we know we don't have enough construction dollars. So we need a little bit of guidance on that as well, at least my opinion.
Yes, sir, and that's a part of what staff, I will say, Commissioner, has worked through the meetings that we have had, the one-on-ones. We've come to everyone asking them, their top three really biggest priorities, so that way if we were unable to fund their number one, we could have a discussion with them about moving to number two. We start looking at that, and we've also given ourselves 5 months, of a head start on this much longer than usual, so that we could do exactly that as we work through the process, be able to communicate back to the advisory committee, to the policy board. This is what we're looking at, this is the shift in funds, because not only are we trying to address any shortfall in projects that we have in the TIP or within the 2 year, excuse me, I'm trying to quit using acronyms, in our 4-year or our 10-year plan. But, you know, and I think everybody's mindful, we received almost $200 million from Hidalgo County in request of new funding. Obviously, we don't have that available. And we received $23 million from Cameron County in new funding for projects. And obviously, we don't have that available either. So we're trying to work through both funnels, if you will, of identifying where there are shortfalls on projects we already have in the chute. How can we facilitate that? How can we address anything new that was brought in? And then the third part of that, I had a talk with one of the mayors this morning about it, is that we're going to do a better job of bringing to the policy board the scoring that we have to have for all the CAT 7, and we're going to have a discussion about that more because we're revising, but we have to have that scoring so that you as elected officials, when you're sitting, when you're looking at what we're proposing and what we're recommending, may hypothetically wonder, why is the project that's scored a 37 in year 1 or 2, and we have a project that's in year 5 that's scored 98? Why isn't that switched and moved up? So we're trying to provide and get ready to provide all of that information to the policy board, so you can take time to look over it before and at the policy meeting to be able to make those decisions on where that limited funding will go. And it will be, we are hoping from the staff side, data driven. It will just be the facts. What's ready? How soon? Where are we on AFAs? Where are we on environmental? How much is the shortfall, and how does your and then you as elected officials will give us guidance on if you agree with whatever proposal we make, and we'll have time before the November submittal to get that in mind.
Yes, just a couple of comments at point of reference. We're looking at 2022, an amount of about $289 million over a 10-year period. Those $289 million have X amount of buying power. Today, we're experiencing high costs for construction, inflation, and other issues that have come up. On average, over the last 3 to 4 months, we have seen anywhere between a 30 to a 50% increase when it comes to the estimates when we actually go to levy. Do we expect that to remain over a 10-year period? Probably not. It goes in cycles, as they say. But just for the purpose of discussion, let's say that number were to be 10%, maybe 15% in the very near future. Or you take $289 million, multiply that times 10%, $30 million más o menos, right? Or 15%, you add a little bit more, that eats up any funding that may become available in 2023. We're looking at a proposed $328 million. That's about $40 million more. But those $40 million are going to be eaten up through inflation, construction costs. Okay. And looking at the numbers, if you look at 2 previous pages, I'm looking at Hidalgo County, about $198 million. Cameron County, $23 million. I believe I saw about $7 or $8 million for the state of Michigan, and I did not tally it from the county. But in general, it's about $250 million more, above and beyond the $289 million that we have already identified. Folks, we don't have this money. We're going to get a slight increase. $40 million to me is a slight increase when you look at the needs for this region. But the $40 million are going to be eaten up just like that. So I'm looking at this, I'm a little concerned because everybody has their projects. They're all important to your communities. They're all important to all of us. whether you live in that city or not, or in that county or not. It's our region. We need to step up to the plate. Moving forward, I challenge each and every one of us in this policy board to be thinking priority. Because when I look at this, and I see Hidalgo County, just as an example, almost $200 million, each precinct has their priorities, and that's really, really important. But what is Hidalgo County's priority? That's a discussion I would imagine county judge and the commissioners would have to have. Same thing for Cameron County. Same thing for McAllen and Mission and anybody else who requests projects. The challenge that we're going to have is we have projects that have been to the UTP for 10 years or so. We have projects that were identified back in 2000 that are still being worked on today that have not been delivered. So people have asked, well, how do we get more money from TxDOT? Right? How do we get more money from TxDOT? We got to deliver these projects, folks. Enough. We got to do our part, and that includes TxDOT. We take full responsibility and accountability for the things that we are responsible for. But if we're going to sit here as a policy board and make a determination, yeah, let's have this project and then that project, and I'm looking at a project that started back in 2000 that hasn't been delivered, is that really a priority project for this region? Right? We got to be asking that question. Now, we've had delivered some really good projects. Thank you. Because those are projects that are being showcased by the FAR district to TxDOT administration. Look over what we have done. But projects that started 20 years ago and haven't been delivered for X amount of reasons, whether it's environmental, right-of-way, utilities, whatever. We have tremendous challenges. And I get it. The small communities in our region cannot afford to do a project on their own. That's why they go to the county, Hidalgo, Cameron, Starr County, here in the near future, working towards getting projects shovel-ready. Because they do not have the resources, financial resources, if you will, to make that happen. But we have to have a commitment by each and every local government that is proposing a project. You gotta have skin in the game. How do you get skin in the game? Well, sometimes people say, well, we don't have the money. I don't know about you, but I didn't pay for my house in cash. I got a mortgage, and I'm paying on it today. The point being, TxDOT, we have the SIP loan, State Infrastructure Bank, low interest loan that can help communities that may not have the resources. Are we taking full advantage of that? Some of you have in the past. Thank you. Kudos to you. Many have not. But if you're here saying we need more money, we need more money, we need more money, it's not going to happen. How has TxDOT helped in the past? Talk about an 80-20 split. 80-20. 80% federal, 20% local. Well, guess what, folks? Of the 20% local, TxDOT usually pays about 18%. 2% is the local government, truly. And those are state funds, I remind you. Even though Category 7 is federal, we are contributing at the state level 18% on average for these projects. So we do have skin in the game, even though they may be off-system projects. That's sink in. We're contributing on off-system projects through the EDC program to the tune of 18% of the projects. Okay? So as we move forward, we need to ask ourselves, how are we going to prioritize? Are these projects good projects for the region? Have they moved? Where are the checks and balances? Who's keeping tally of the progress of these jobs? If they haven't moved in 20 years, they haven't been delivered, well, we got a problem, folks. So I ask you to be thinking that way. Mayors, commissioners, county judges, go back and look at your records. Look at your records, what has been done. For those projects that are still ongoing, have they been delivered? How far along are they? Are they 10%? Or are they 80, 90%? From my perspective, and this is just Pete Alvarez, I'm not speaking for TxDOT here, but from my perspective, if we've invested and the project is 90% complete, by God, we better deliver that project. We've invested a lot of money. But if the project is 10 or 20% complete, sometimes it's time to cut the losses and move on. Those projects are taking up too much allocation of other projects that may be considered a high priority. So we'll talk about the scoring system in a little bit. My challenge to each and every one of us, including myself, is identify what truly are the high priority projects. Let's rank those projects and then make a determination. The lower priority projects or the projects that have been stale for 15, 20 years, they need to be shipped out and bring in the projects that are truly needed in this region. Thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate we clearing up some of the misinformation that's out there, because there is plenty of that. But I know what we tried to do, and Pete's put with us here, and he can attest to this, in Cameron County and CCRMA, we tried to align the projects that we presented so that the requests are in place in accordance with the agreements that were in place before the merger occurred, and that were approved after the merger. So that was, bottom line is projects are shovel ready to go, or will be. And there's a lot of skin in the game from the local perspective, where we've invested in right-of-way acquisition and engineering, where the project is getting construction funds. And please correct me, Mr. Sepulveda, if I'm wrong, but, that's the way that we've attempted to move forward with what we presented at this time. The projects are listed under CCRMA or Cameron County, but truly, there's Clarendon projects, there's Brownsville projects, there's Los Fresnos projects, there's projects all over the county. Mr. Sepulveda, I don't know.
No, you're right on. You might want to go back a decade or so and talk about Project Overpass, because it's the same concept. And we invested $10 million and got a good return.
Yeah, it was more than 10 years ago. Unfortunately, I need to remind you, it was 20, okay? Sometimes people were waiting to build a crossway, and go wait and protect us. But that's another story. But in the meantime, we've got $4.5 million locally to do the EA, because no one else will do it for us. So we're getting it done, one way or another. But an idea, just as you're talking about, 20 years ago, there was a $10 million bond issue passed by Cameron County for infrastructure projects. Those 10 million, and you're here and you witnessed a lot of that, turned into $389 million worth of projects delivered to our community because of that small investment locally to move projects forward and not wait for you guys to decide it was a priority for you. We made it our priority, and it's been delivered. And I attested 20 years, 22 actually, because that's how long I've been in the commission. It's taken that long to get things done. And we're still trying to move with the same concept now, with investing locally to move projects forward, to have it go. We discussed in our previous meeting, what are we doing with broadband? The same thing, Shovel ready, the money's there. So, just a thought.
And just for the Delta, does that mean there's a project listed above the looking at year 2023? When you show Delta 3.9 million, is that because we have projects in that year above the 3.9 million? Or how do we get that Delta?
So if we look at the previous allocation from the previous UTP, since the UTP, and I apologize on using the acronym, Unified Transportation Plan, the 10-year plan that we start with when we're trying to begin funding our projects. So we get our allocations from this Unified Transportation Plan. So if you take a look at 2022's UTP versus 2023, we see that increase per fiscal year. And then we have to consider, for our bylaws, the way we divide that delta. So that increase of 3.9, for instance, we now have to consider the wage component between the three areas within our planning boundary. So that's basically what this table is, if you guys didn't really break it down. So if you take a look at the increase, the request for increase of CAT, whether it be to existing projects or to new projects, and you compare it to the 40 million for 10 years, the amount that we're seeing, and I don't mean to correct anybody, and I hope it wasn't a misunderstanding, but initially when we created these tables, those tables in the previous pages, Hidalgo County does incorporate, so that 198 million does incorporate both the city of McAllen and the city of Mission's request. We were asked to show totals for the two counties individually, which is just an exercise. It wasn't to compare the two only or to single anybody out. So that's everybody's request for Hidalgo County, and then both Cameron County and CCR expressed. So that's what those numbers represent. They're very high in relevance to the 40 million that we're going to have for over 10 years. So that's basically what we're looking at here at this table. Now, any other available funding, as Mr. Alves was explaining, projects that don't go in letting quick enough for we fall behind. So the difference between programming and obligating funds, in other words, spending the money on time, is where the issues lie right now. So projects that have been within those UTP years, way past the time they should have been, are what are hurting us now as an organization. And that's our big concern. So we're going to try our best to not only work with those that have given us requests as of now, but all of our local governments and funding partners, so that we put those projects that need to be in the tip. Those first 4 years of the UTP, those projects should come first. Projects that will be ready to go to construction, and we know that money will get spent when it's supposed to. That's the ultimate goal of this exercise.
When is the next meeting? With the advisory?
Advisory committee, we are scheduled to meet in August, I believe, because July was canceled.
That's correct. So we'll be in August.
So it'll give us 5 weeks to work on the exercise and prepare something for the advisory.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment, two things. One, I think we're probably the only city that does not have a project in the plan.
Yes, sir.
It's a question. Okay. So I just wanted to start with that to let everybody know. I know Edinburgh has not been active, unfortunately, in putting projects or preparing them, but we're going to. So I just asked the policy board to take that into consideration as we evaluate, what to do with these funds. We have, I've talked to Andrew about identifying areas that are fast-growing areas. All the cities here are growing. We have some pockets also where there's some opportunities. I've talked to our precinct 4 commissioner, Ellie Torres, about partnering in some of those projects. So we're going to be bringing that before you all. I know it's not on here right now, but I want to make sure everybody takes that into consideration. And I know that's probably one of the challenges we have. I think, Pete, to your point, you do have change in leadership, right? And some leadership are more involved than others. In this case, unfortunately, Edinburgh, we don't have a project right now. I mean, even if we wanted to, but I think Edinburgh historically has been very supportive, projects throughout the whole region. So, and that's good because it's helped develop throughout the region. We just want the same opportunity and present to you all some of the projects that we have before us. It won't be just the city of Edinburgh coming before you saying 100% funding. It's going to be in partnership with Precinct 4 or another city of McAllen or city of Far. How historically we've done roads. We've done roads in South Edinburgh and Far, and with McAllen on the west side. So we plan to do that, and just make that comment on behalf of us. I hear you all. I do agree in terms of making sure we maximize the use of these funds. But at the same time, we do have new leadership throughout, I don't speak for the other city, throughout the region, and we just need to keep that in mind. That's all.
Mayor, you're right, we partnered in big projects, and I'm glad to say that. But at the end of the day, the policy board meeting is not, the rhetoric is a lot of information being spelled out. But at the end of the day, it's quite simple. If you want something done, you can make a Christmas list all you want, but if you want something done, you gotta put money on the table. Everybody has to put money on the table. I keep using my money to make, I do City Hall, I just don't. I do roads and infrastructure. That's a choice that you have to do. And those that have done it correctly, that's where they're at the top. They're in the tip, so to speak. Not because it's political nature, it's just that you're right. And the way the rules work is those who put and invest in the community, like Cameron County is doing aggressively, and Hidalgo County, will automatically, including Edinburgh, if Edinburgh moves the next 2 years and moves projects forward, it's going to come to the UTP. And it immediately can jump up to the tip because they're ready, and the public benefits from it. That's what it's about. Get your projects ready, get them on board by investing in them so you can punch them out. It is foolish to be spending on projects that have been, I don't care if they're 7 years old. The real question is, when we're in Hidalgo County PO, is do you have the finances to get the project done or not? It is that simple. Because if you don't, why do we keep allowing you to bank money, just sits there, right, and be using that money on something to get their entire code? And Hidalgo County has a lot of projects they need, absolutely. But that's how you prioritize. It's not really that difficult. If you move your projects, the UTP means nothing because it's going to get moved up because you are ready to go, and we're going to fund it. It's that simple.
That triggered my question, kind of twofold, and it's with
I know at the Transportation Commission, the last Transportation Commission, they did announce that they will be doing a flex program for 2022, possible additional monies for construction, I believe in 2022. Is any of that going to be involved in any of this program that we're looking at as far as particular stiff and impacting any of the costs that we are allocating here?
So the answer to that question is yes. The federal bill, obviously going through its process, we've identified $5 billion for the state of Texas. This 2023 UTP, the statewide 2023 UTP, takes that into consideration. 2022, the federal UTP was about $78 billion. The proposed 2023 UTP is right around $85 billion. And so the 85 takes into account $5 billion of additional federal funds and approximately $4.5 to $5 billion of local funds by the various communities throughout the state of Texas. I also want to point out, and I'll get to your second question in a little bit, but I'm going to take advantage of talking about the 2023 UTP. Does anybody recall what the 2017 UTP number was for the region, for the Far District?
$500 million.
$595 million. The 2023 is $2.5 billion. Do the math, folks, it's 4 times the amount.
And we're still not getting our share.
We gotta get away from that mentality. The mentality needs to be, how do we deliver the project so we can ask for more money? We're rolling money over year by year by year. We got $2.5 billion that's being proposed for the FAR district. And I know that includes the other 5 counties that are not represented here. But we're going from $595 million in 2017 to approximately $2.5 billion in 2023. Do we need more money? Of course we do, Commissioner Garza. But until we deliver the projects, how can we honestly go up to administration and say we need more money? The question I would ask if I was them is, what have you delivered, right? Some folks have done a really good job. Kudos to them. Great. But not everybody's in that. We need to get to that point and spend the money that's allocated to us. What do you do in the different cities and counties? If you don't spend the money, how does the public react to that? You have X amount of balance, you didn't spend the money, well, we need it for something else, they want to take it away. I'm not saying to do that here. What I'm saying is, let's utilize the budget that is available to us. Someone got a second question?
And that was the lean as far as impacts. I would hate for these people to be running a little strong, trying to get to the finish line and all of them chained up, and we got a lot more work to do as far as structuring. What you're saying is considered already in this proposal. Thank you.
Thing is, we never know where funding is going to come from. I mean, who would have known that infrastructure money was going to be made available? Well, that's part of the benefit of being ready.
Yes,
that's right. Having your plan already executed. You got to be ready for. I've been told you got to be ready when luck shows up.
Yes, sir.
So that requires a lot of planning, and it requires a lot of hard work and a lot of faith. You're hoping that you can find the funding. But I think we've got a commitment from TxDOT. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but if we get the project ready, it's ready to go. They're going to help us find the money to get it done. And at the end of the day, that responsibility lies on us, the elected officials in all of our areas, to make sure that our projects are ready to go.
Sure.
And in case we forgot, all of that increase got eaten up by inflation. Right? That was your first commentary. The increase in funding, it's costing us more in delivery.
It's about 4%, sir, the inflation on average per year. But 5 years, 4%, roughly 20%. We went 4 times, that's 400%.
Any other comments, discussion? Thank God this was informational.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Thank you, members. And RGVMPO staff is always here to help. Any requests at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you where we can. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck these next 60 days. Item number 8, discussion. Discussion and possible action on the RGVMPO complete street policy. Mr. Chris Nelson.
Good afternoon, policy board members. My name is Chris Nelson. I'm a transportation planner on NPO staff. I'm here to give a brief update on our regional complete streets policy. So for this policy, by federal law in the BIL, we are mandated to spend at least 2.5% of our planning funds on complete streets planning activities. As you may recall, in the previous policy board meeting, the policy board authorized us to move forward with the adoption of the regional complete streets policy, and then also the drafting of the guidebook to be used by the municipalities to assist them with the adoption of their own local complete streets policies. And then at the most recent last policy board meeting, an amendment was actually made to the UPWP to actually allocate the necessary funds for the regional complete streets policy. So what we've been doing with regards to the policy is we've actually been reaching out to municipal staff from the different municipalities across the valley and talking to them about their existing and future planned complete streets policies, talking to them about any potential strengths and weaknesses of the policies, and talking to them about what they would actually like to see in the regional complete streets policy. So I think a lot of good feedback that we got was about the importance of not just writing the policy in the best possible way, but also grabbing the hearts of the city staff and the elected officials and really making sure that we get their buy-in to actually move forward with the implementation of the policy. Because you can write the best policy ever, but if you don't actually have the buy-in to actually move forward with implementing the policy, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be successful in actually building the infrastructure necessary to actually make the transportation network equitable to all users. And then in addition to that, after having received that feedback, we actually decided to start planning these outreach events where we're actually going to reach out to our municipal partners and actually provide a workshop for them to actually talk through the regional complete streets policy, talk through what they would like to see in the policy, and then hopefully work with them to not only adopt the regional complete streets policy, but also work with them to eventually adopt local complete streets policies. So that way we're not only working on local complete streets policies and hopefully create this infrastructure necessary for the transportation network. And then in addition to that, we've also been finishing up our inventory across the region of all existing and proposed complete streets related policies. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions you might have at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Nelson? We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, item number 9, discussion and possible action on the updated CAT 7 scoring and evaluation form. This is for informational purposes. Mr. Diaz.
Yes, good afternoon. Let me go ahead and switch the screen over here so we could actually look at the form. So I'm going to go step by step on the changes that have been made. So let me go ahead and bring down the PowerPoint. I'm going to bring that down right now and minimize this. Okay. So stop minimizing. Okay, I see. I got to take it over to that screen, dragging it over. There it is. Okay, so let me maximize this for you. So,
and again, just again for everybody's purposes, mark number 10 on your pad will take you to that shortcut.
Yes.
So if you need a little bit better.
Thank you. I also want to start off also saying this is an informational item. So right now, everything that I'm going to present or show here up on the screen is up for discussion and, possible amendments. So first of all, starting off with the title. Before, this was called the Off-System Project Scoring and Evaluation Form. So now, instead of the off-system, we went ahead and said CAT 7. So this is the CAT 7 Project Evaluation Form now. And it was before it had 2022 to 2020 45, which is the entire MTP. But we weren't scoring all projects on the MTP. The projects that are being scored are within the UTP, which is the first 10 years of the MTP. So that was the title change for the form, first thing that was changed. And then as a recommendation from the Technical Advisory Committee meeting, before we actually had the local match, whether or not it was acquired or not. So that item was discussed for removing, since that was automatic points that were going to be given, if local match was available. So therefore, the recommendation was to go ahead and add in utility status. So that's what's been done now. So utility status now has its own points. in place of local match. So that was removed. So going on in the form, and it's the same as the way right-of-way status and environmental and schematics are all scored. So they're all four of them are scored or balanced the same way. So going on, the other changes that were made were here as safety improvements. Safety improvements before were actually in a text in a text format as before. That's as this one is down here, but now it was made into checkboxes to make it a little bit more for accountability, to make the points more balanced that way. So right now you could check off one of the three or as many as apply to the project. Going on to international trade port connectivity, that was also in text box format before, but now it's a radio button. So now you have to select only one of these, and the points are as just here. Moving on. Yes. Yes, sir. Definitely.
On the access to pedestrian facility
Mhm.
model, but Pete, clarify this for us. Aren't a lot of these new projects required to have a dedicated bike lane to it? Is this pedestrian qualification to something else, like a linear trail of some kind?
This is to an actual, bicycle / trail. Yes, sir. And to address that as well, down at the bottom, going back to what Chris just presented, this is where that's a requirement now. The adding of bike lanes and the adding of sidewalks. So this is now like a bonus point section. So that also addresses those areas as well, as far as for bike lanes and sidewalks. Leaning more towards the Complete Streets initiative.
You want me to be able to show that your project, you're correct, Commissioner, that you have to provide that now. But this way it's able to, I'm sorry. You're correct in that you have to provide those facilities now on the project, but this was a way for us to identify any possible connectivity to existing facilities. So if you happen to have a roadway project that you're doing that's connecting to another roadway project that has the bike lane identified on it, then we see that as, we're getting 2 for 1 for that. We're providing not only an added capacity or improvement project, but then we're providing a filling of a gap of a bicycle facility as well.
So it has a dedicated bike lane inside of their roadway, existing roadway, that'll count towards these points?
Or even a sidewalk if there's some connectivity to that.
Yes. I guess what could be added here, we could add existing bicycle or trail facility, to better address those points.
Clarify.
Yes, we'll go ahead and make note of that. Thank you.
Yeah, just a real quick follow-up to that. I believe we're required, by federal law, if you will, we're required to look at the possibility of bicycle and pedestrian for every project and incorporate where it's reasonable and feasible to do so. But we need to be considering that in all of our projects.
Alrighty, if there are no questions at the moment, we'll continue on. Okay, we went ahead and covered the international trade. Now the next thing is filling of roadway gaps. Same thing, this one was also in text box format before, but now you have 2 different items to select from, opposed to having to explain, the gap in the network. So now it's adding capacity for traffic generators, schools, hospitals, big box shops, etc. And you have the filling of an actual roadway gap. So there's 2 different aspects now as far as network gaps. So those are the points for that too. Going further down, these remain the same. Well, this one here, for example, this one was the economic development. So there wasn't a change. The only thing is now that we're requiring for supportive documentation. Before it was please attach supportive documentation, but now it's a requirement. So we're doing it. If the documentation is not provided, the points will not be awarded. Same thing for the flood prone area section, which is a new one. That one was actually an addition onto the form. So now we're addressing if it addresses a flood prone area, same thing, supportive documentation has to be provided in order to receive those points. So going further down, this portion actually for ADT counts was moved. This was actually part of the form up on top, but now it's down in the bottom for internal use. So staff is actually filling out these two questions right here. Congestion reduction was already there, but ADT got moved into the section now, which is for internal use. So these points will be evaluated by staff and selected based on the data available. And going down, which I kind of addressed already, we have the bonus points section. So now of adding sidewalks. So before it was on top, for adding sidewalks, and it automatically gave it points for addressing safety. So therefore it was moved down here now. So it's now a bonus point. And also right here, adding for bike lanes, all in support of the Complete Streets initiative. And the last thing on the form was before it was 180 points, which a project would be if they got like all the points on the form, which was kind of misleading. So if a project showed like 120, they were like, wow, we got bonus, we're above 100, but not really, because the 180 was the maximum point. So now that's been adjusted. So now the maximum of receive is 100 points. So it's more true to scale now. So those are all the changes that have been brought up this far towards the CAT 7 project evaluation form. We could, discuss it a little bit more in detail. If there's anything that comes up to mind of any changes or recommendations for updates, we could take them as well. Otherwise, this will be brought back in August for final approval. So it'll be presented again to TAC and brought again to policy once all the changes have been applied for hopeful approval in August for utilization for the next go around.
So if people have comments, questions, or want to have some consideration of something else,
yes, sir.
Who should they call? And
you could send them to me through email, and I'll go ahead and apply it. And once I apply the changes, I'll go ahead and send it out to everybody, so that way everybody can be on the same page. And I'll go ahead and provide justification of why there was an amendment done. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and send this out with existing how the recommendation was earlier, just now. So as changes are made, I'll go ahead and send out the amendments. Yes, sir.
Can I scroll down just
Yes.
a tad?
Sure.
To make sure we're on the same page.
Yes, sir.
So on the safety improvement example,
Further down.
right there. So
Right here.
safety improvement
Yes.
on the left.
Yes.
If you add shoulders, continuous left turn lane, and a raised median,
Mhm.
that's a total of 17 points that could be added. Right?
Yes. Right.
Same thing with the international corridor over there, three times 4, another 12 points.
Well, this one, sorry, this one actually is a radio button. So this one only lets you select one. This one you could select multiples.
Okay.
So here you would only get 3 points for international trade overall. There's no more than 3 points that can be awarded.
Just want to make sure that it truly does that up to 100. I was running
Yes,
numbers
sir.
and something, I encourage you to take a look.
Okay, we'll go ahead and verify that once again. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. On the scoring, is that tied to federal funding? Is that how each category gets its level of points, or is it just based on the policy? On each
This
category?
was based on the data-driven approach. So this is the data that we have available as an MPO that's throughout the board, because there are other measures that we can use, but one entity does have one data set and the other one doesn't. So these are the data sets that are available, readily available across the board through all entities. So therefore, this is the data or the weighted votes that were used. This has gone through about 3 workshops in the past. So it's been revised. We're revising it once again. So we're getting it better and better as we go along. So right now, this is an attempt to get a better consensus of the scoring throughout the board. So if there's any other, questions or, options or amendments to be made, we can note them at this time. And if not, how Commissioner just mentioned, Chairman, that we could, as they come in, I'll receive them through email. I'll go ahead and make those changes and we'll present them as such in August.
Just one comment. Should
Yes,
there be a category of points for shovel-ready projects? I mean, what if
We
we
can
bring
do
to
it.
you a project
Okay.
such as you were talking about, that you bring the shovel?
Okay.
If you're gonna do it, that's a document, I think you gotta at least consider giving points to someone that brings you a project in which have already invested 10 to 20% of the cost of the project.
But that's-
Yes, sir.
that's covered at the top,
Right.
Commissioner, with the drop-down box. Because
Yes.
if you check off each one of those, they're at 100%, then we know you're ready to go.
Right.
On those 4 drop boxes.
So you'd automatically get the high score?
Well,
Not
you-
necessarily.
No.
Not automatically.
No.
Right, so, but if you're gonna be scored, and all of the other things are gonna be taken into consideration, if it's shovel ready, that ought to be, scored somehow.
Well, I think that sort of respectfully, Commissioner, that brings us back to the conversation we had earlier, that we have some projects that are ready to go that don't score as well as some projects that we have that aren't ready to go. So it could be that the local community, the local government saw that as a project that they wanted to advance, and they advanced it to get it moving forward, but it may not necessarily score high on all of the criteria that we have to be for that project. It doesn't mean that the project is going to be held up. It's just that's the scoring that goes with it.
Yeah, but if he doesn't connect to an international port, he'll never get those points.
Correct.
Okay, so,
But the international port is only one matrices of those, because then we've got corridors, we've got whether it's free trade zone, we've got whether it's overweight corridors.
but there's some work that will not qualify for all the categories,
Of course,
which means that,
no project will meet all the categories.
well,
And one way
One might-
that can be addressed, you give, is reweighting those, you're giving 20 points to the side, which is 20%, you're giving 20% to the top. If you reweight that a little bit, I mean, it doesn't solve the port in that, but if you want to give importance to shovel ready, you reweight that 20%, you reweight it to 25%, 30%. But you'd have to move the numbers to different things.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what the 4 drop downs do. They identify if it is.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I do have a comment.
And I will say, I'm sorry, Eduardo, I will say to the mayor's question real quick, that all of the information that goes on this sheet comes from the information that we receive from the local governments. We have a standardized project update form that the policy board approved. And when we receive that information from that form, that's what we use for the data input towards this.
I submitted a project for right away only. You score me based on my roadway, so my construction project and my right of way project will have the same point.
We don't score right-of-way projects.
So how do they meet the TIF with the BTG?
We provide the information to the board and the advisory committee to take action on.
Okay.
so at the end of the day, all of these that you add up here mean that, you score a project, right? But
Yes, sir.
at the real end of the day, is you count how many votes support a project, whether it's first hire or not.
Well, of course, it's always,
Policy decision,
that's always been the will of the board.
policy decision.
Yes, sir. But we have a requirement from the feds to provide a scoring with it.
Just real quick, just to follow up on the, for internal use as congestion reduction percentage. Can you elaborate on that real quick? Is that taking into account development growth in a certain area?
It takes into account, Mayor, some of the projects like we did before your tenure, where the city of Mission was the fiduciary agency on some operational improvements that the MPO funded for some boxes, controllers, timers, and so forth. And we're able to see through our consultant on our congestion study, what type of reduction in congestion or in delay is what I really call it, not so much congestion, but delay that we would have with those improvements, whatever it may be. So if you have an added capacity project, or we look at that so we know, is it really fixing anything? Because if you have a light that's 2 minutes long with 100 vehicles and there are 2 lanes, but we don't do anything to the light, but then you do added capacity and it's 3 lanes, okay, you've got 33 vehicles each lane, but we're not doing anything to address the delay. And we sort of take that into account, we can look at that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking, because I didn't see anything in your score, high growth areas, areas that are, 5 years ago, we're not even be in the radar of anything or anyone. But because of strong growth, it's a situation where obviously, but I don't see how any of this would have.
No, we're strictly looking at the project itself.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, and I want to add also that this is also relevant to the travel demand model. So each project is run through the travel demand model, and that'll also show us how it would affect the way the current system is reflected to the improvements as well. You're welcome. Thank you.
I stand
Yes.
corrected, it does add up to 100. There was some with the radial that I
Cool.
was double counting, but then it says bonus up to 20 points. I stand
Good
corrected.
deal. No, appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's a good thing to check.
Make sure that's on the video.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
He's an engineer.
A&M or UT, I don't know, so.
All right, any other questions for Luis? Any other comments?
Thank you.
Now we'll move forward, but and we started about 15 minutes late because the cause ran a little bit longer than usual. It is already 3 o'clock, just out of respect for everybody's time. If we can keep these reports to as informative as possible, but in as short a period as possible. I know we've had a lot of good discussion today about rankings and points and moving forward. So we'll ask that you just be as
If I may, recommendation, these reports are available online unless there's a specific question. I think out of respect for everybody's time, all of us, if we want to go through a report, we can definitely do so at our own time. That would be a recommendation. It's up to you how you want to handle it.
I do have mine that I need to give.
so Andrew do his, and the rest will address that in just a second.
Okay, going through this very quickly, the staff budget should be at 33.33% expended. We're at 26.8, so we're below budget, but we're very close to where we should be for the timeline. I'm happy to announce that from the retreat, there's some orientation materials that staff is working on to provide to existing and new board members. We're hoping to have that out the door by September. A small little handbook, if you will, some terminology and explanation of what we do here. I would like to say that Tuesday, July 12th, it's a different day, but the TxDOT Commission is going to be meeting, and one of the top priority items they're going to have is going over the 10-year plan, the UTP. It was mentioned at the retreat, Commissioner Garza brought it up, an excellent point about trying to have more of a delegation there. So I just offer that date to you to be able to possibly show up, thank TxDOT, and if there's any chances at all to squeeze a little more money, that's the opportunity for us to be able to meet with them before the August approval. The August approval will be August 30th. That's also a Tuesday, so the last 2 meetings, or the next 2 meetings in July and August have shifted from Thursday to Tuesday, so I want to make sure everybody has noted that as well, because the August 30th meeting will be where the UTP, the 10-year plan, is adopted, and we'll be able to move forward from that. And then finally, I am on vacation next week, but if you need anything, you can feel free to text or call me, and I certainly do answer my phone, but I will not be in the office if you need anything. Oh, yes, and staff was going to ask, because since we follow the meeting dates of the COG does not hold a July meeting, so I leave it to the will of the board, but staff is recommending that we forego the July meeting, and the next meeting would be August 31st at 1:30 p.m.
Anybody have any critical issues in July they want to address? If not, then we'll just go ahead and entertain that. Any questions for Andrew?
Yeah, so I would agree that we just go ahead and officially cancel the July meeting. Is that what you're
Is that a
requesting?
motion?
Yes.
Is that a motion? I guess, do we need?
I guess a consensus, because it's not really down as an action item, it's under my update, so I don't look for, it's just a consensus of the group.
Well, I think we all agree.
All in agreement, right?
Thank you.
So, thank you. And again, because of just consideration of time, is there anything in the TxDOT project status report we absolutely need to hear that's not in the reports? Or does anybody have any questions with respect to that? If not, item B, Cameron County RMA, is there anything in your report that needs to be?
The only thing, because we're not having the July meeting, that project at the Center Bridge, we will be having a groundbreaking ceremony, probably the 3rd or 4th week of July. So, once we have a date and time set, we will send an email, with an invitation to the NPO staff so they can circulate it to all.
Congratulations. Any questions for the Cameron County RMA? Hidalgo County RMA? You're good. Any questions for the Hidalgo County RMA? Congratulations on that recent groundbreaking.
Thank you.
D, Regional Transit Metro.
No, it's just a status report.
Any questions on that status report? Okay, item 7, other business. Anything that we need to bring up? Just got a motion. We got a second. All those in favor?